Good Tuesday, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Conversation Daily News. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all can join us once again. We, of course, have your news headlines coming up on this Tuesday. We have the Truth of the Day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich, and in today's Entertainment Spotlight, be part of my conversation with author Jennifer Bickel Cook discussing her new book on Mary Kay Ash called Pass It On. Enjoy today's program. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with your Tuesday headlines. In national news, Biden signs $1 trillion infrastructure bill with bipartisan audience. President Joe Biden signed his $1 trillion infrastructure deal into law on Monday on the White House lawn, hailing it as an example of what bipartisanship can achieve. The president hopes to use the law to build back his popularity and says it will deliver jobs, clean water, high-speed internet, and a clean energy future. Support for Biden has taken a hit amidst rising inflation and the inability to fully shake the public health and economic risk from COVID-19. A smattering of Republican lawmakers were on hand for what might be one of the last celebratory displays of bipartisanship ahead of the 2022 midterm elections. My message to the American people is this: America is moving again, and your life is going to change for the better, Biden said. With the bipartisan deal, the president had to choose between his promise of fostering national unity and a commitment to transformative change. The final measure whittled down much of his initial vision to invest in roads, bridges, water systems, broadband, ports, electric vehicles, and the power grid. Yet the administration hopes to sell the new law as a success that bridges partisan divides and will elevate the country with clean drinking water, high-speed internet, and a shift away from fossil fuels. Biden will get outside Washington to sell the plan more broadly in coming days. He intends to go to New Hampshire on today to visit a bridge on the state's red list for repair, and he will go to Detroit on Wednesday for a stop at General Motors' electric vehicle assembly plant, while other officials also fan out across the country. The president went to Port of Baltimore last week to highlight how the supply chain investments from the law could limit inflation and strengthen supply chains, a key concern of voters who are dealing with higher prices. We see this as an opportunity because we know that the president's agenda is quite popular, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said Monday before the signing. The outreach to voters can move beyond the legislative process to talk about how this is going to help them, and we're hoping that's going to have an impact. The gathering Monday on the White House lawn was uniquely celebratory, with an upbeat brass band and peppy speeches, a contrast to the drama and tensions when the fate of the package was in doubt for several months. The speakers lauded the measure for creating jobs, combating inflation, and responding to the needs of voters. In more national news, the defense attorney in the Rittenhouse trial says he feared for his life in Kenosha. Kyle Rittenhouse provoked bloodshed on the streets of Kenosha by bringing a semi-automatic rifle to a protest and menacing others, and when the shooting stopped, he walked off like a hero in a Western, a prosecutor said in closing arguments Monday at Rittenhouse's murder trial. But Rittenhouse attorney countered that the shooting started after the young man was ambushed by a crazy person that night and became afraid his gun was going to be wrested away and used to kill him. Rittenhouse, 18, faces a mandatory sentence of life in prison if convicted of the most serious charge against him, first-degree intentional homicide, which is Wisconsin's top murder charge. Earlier on Monday, the judge dismissed a count of possession of a dangerous weapon by a person under 18, a misdemeanor that had appeared to be among the likelihoods of the charges to net a conviction. In business news, the Associated Press says, key reason for supply shortages? Americans keep spending. Take a step back from the picked-over store shelves, the stalled container ships, and the empty auto showrooms, and you'll find a root cause of the shortages of just about everything. Even as the pandemic has dragged on, U.S. households flush with cash from stimulus checks, booming stock markets, and enlarged home equity have felt like spending freely again, a lot. And since consumer demand drives much of the U.S. and global economies, the Associated Press says high demand has brought goods shortages to the U.S. and much of the world. Add the fact that companies are ordering and hoarding more goods and parts than they need so they don't run out again, and you end up with an almost unsquenchable demand that is magnifying the supply shortages. And finally, in entertainment news, Sesame Street debuts first Asian American Muppet. What's in a name? Well, for Ji Young, the newest Muppet resident of Sesame Street, her name is a sign she was meant to live there. So in Korean, traditionally the two syllables, they each mean something different, and Ji means like wise or smart, and Young means like brave or courageous and strong. Ji Young explained during a recent interview. But we are looking it up, and guess what? Ji also means sesame. At only 7 years old, Ji Young is making history as the first Asian American Muppet in the Sesame Street canon. She is Korean American and has two passions: rocking out on her electric guitar and skateboarding. The children's TV program, which first aired 52 years ago this month, gave the Associated Press a first look at its adorable new occupant. Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. It's now time for the Truth of the Day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich. Mary Ellen, take it away.
This is Mary Ellen with your Truth of the Day. Always continue to shine your light of goodness. When you find yourself in the presence of a person in a grumpy mood, it may seem like a dark cloud is approaching. This might block your light of positivity. You can remind yourself that clouds pass. This person's grumpy behavior does not have the power to affect your mood unless you allow it to. With the power of change firmly in your hands, you can choose to respond to a grumpy person with confidence and understanding. Continue to shine your light of positivity to assist others to find their way back to their own light. Offer them a silent prayer of peace, a sympathetic smile, or a word of welcome. All people need understanding without any judgments or expectations. Help a person to see the good in any situation they might see as troublesome. Today, find someone and make their day better. And also, enjoy your day.
Author Jennifer Bickel Cook is featured in today's Entertainment Spotlight. We're here on Conversations Daily News. For Conversations Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with the Entertainment Spotlight. Author Jennifer Bickel Cook joined me recently on Conversations Live, the radio show, to talk about her new book, Pass It On, What I Learned from Mary Kay Ash. Here's a bit of our conversation. I really enjoyed this book because I did learn so much, not only about Mary Kay's life, but also about the impact she had on others, including yourself. So what has it been like for you to share those reflections now in this new book?
Well, it's like a passing on of what she taught me, which is what she always told people. When people would ask, Mary Kay, how can we repay you for what you've done for us? She would always say, just pass it on. And what she meant was to pass on that way of life that she shared with everyone that she met, and that was to live by the golden rule and to put God first, family second, and career third. And Mary Kay not only preached this, but she walked it, and I just loved to watch her with people because she was such a master at loving people and making people feel important.
And Jennifer, I think the backstory is something, people like myself, again, we've heard the name. Of course, we know about the products and the impact the business has had on individuals. But I've never read before your book about her own beginnings. How much did that inspire you to see where she began and where she was able to go?
Well, just the fact that she overcame so many obstacles to get to where she was, that's an inspiration in itself because she started out very poor. Her dad was sick. Her mother had to work all the time, and Mary Kay had a lot of responsibility in taking care of her dad. And whenever she didn't know what to do, she would always call her mother, and her mother would tell her, you can do it. And that became kind of a motto for Mary Kay's life, that when she had any obstacle that was in her pathway, she would just remind herself of her mother's words, you can do it. And in that way, she was able to overcome a lot of obstacles, and she did have a lot of them.
Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. We thank you all for tuning in to this edition of Conversations Daily News. We'll be back to you guys on tomorrow's more news, Truth of the Day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich, and of course your Entertainment Spotlight. Until then, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Daily News today. Let's make it a great one.